Yeah, this has been going on quite a while, huh?
That's right.
I had a flash of memory there. I've always believed that it was important to share writing out loud whenever possible, particularly poetry. I think that's probably the way it started and the way it should finish. I do remember many years ago, during a summer session, we attempted with some success to keep the readings going even during Laurinburg summer. Easier said than done. But we had a different setup than this, and a couple of the young ladies in charge of the forum had a reader from among our peers that they didn't like very much. Wasn't a matter of the literature as much as the personality, and they deliberately set up a tier of cushions that when he leaned over would just keep going. So when it did that, and then the passed it upon me. Friend of mine that I taught with many years ago with the when I was teaching with the University of Maryland, named Fred Parrott. He was a PhD in English, a very fine scholar, and I remember when this book was first put together, and I still smile at it, he said, "Oh, you should never use that as a title, The Casket Maker." Ooh, you're going to regret that. And I said, "Well, Fred, the casket is originally a container for precious things." Well, the bodies of our near and dear are precious things. But the point is that before that, the casket was, and the casket was very often a container of gold in which jewels were kept. That's the way I would like to think of this. He said, "Oh, you're going to be sorry." Well, Fred, I'm not. I spent many of my happiest days in the far north. I come from Oregon, in the northwest corner, in the northeast corner of Oregon, near the Idaho border, and we were closer to Boise than we were to Portland, actually. And then when I was in the military, I spent most of my time in Iceland, and subsequently, as a civilian, I taught for a year with some interim back in the States. And then I went back overseas for a year or two with the University of Maryland, and they sent me to Greenland, which was fine with me because I enjoyed it. It seems to me there's an intensity that causes students to be better in that extreme climate. I don't know why, Well, I didn't know why, and then I got to thinking that we live in more sophisticated times. In those days, a bomb or two well placed would cut off the the means for heat, and so you were always living during the Cold War with the possibility that this could happen. So when you went to class, you might have studied a little more intently than that. That's just my theory. And spring in Iceland, and I do enjoy Iceland. I've been back there 3 times since I got out of the military. Spring comes in May, pretty much, usually. The first of spring. We get here in maybe early March. This is called Spring in Iceland. If I act like I'm kind of a stranger to this book, I am. It came out a long time ago, and I'm just assuming that most of you don't have it under your pillow and cry yourselves to sleep over it every night. To Iceland, spring comes slowly, late in the solstice, greening the grass and keening the spirit. Late in May weeks a reprieve from plum seaweeds and stay from the stabs of snow seeking shale rock. The light comes to Iceland longing with wind whip, then lulls the tired heart, warms the mind, moves gratitude, longing for summer, permitted by lovers. In May now, in green stuff and this place, forget the winter. We were 50 miles from Reykjavik, the capital. The military base is near the village of Keflavik, so it was called Keflavik Base, although Keflavik is a very small town. It's a long 50-mile gravel road from Keflavik to Reykjavik, and that was the way we went when we went. This is called Road Scene Keflavik to Hafnarfjordur. Hafnarfjordur was a large suburb just outside the main city. Pillar clouds and a plain does not belong. Even sheep's wool on the fence is out of place. Tedious, the plain wood church paralleling spire to door, a mock security, secured more through white paint. It looks like 4-bottomed Bunyan plows went through the lava here. Northward, the stacked rock guides the way for ghosts, and west, cold lava far as I can see, stretching into distance, dark. The bay by Keflavik today is, well, blue as new sky. Gunnar turned back to green in his way and burnt, not quite like Njál. Often we turn back, lots of us, remark those houses, walls, lava, knolls, sea, rock, and cloud. Note the white walls and houses in pastels, but most the green, green, green. The reference here to let me find it. Gunnar and Njál. One of the most famous of the Icelandic sagas is the Ballad of Burnt Njál, Njal. And Njál and Gunnar were 2 of the Icelandic leaders. I can't remember if they were brothers or not, but when they were besieged by the enemy, the question to stay and fight to the death or flee and save your life became the question. And so the Ballad of Burnt Njal came out of that. And Gunnar was fleeing from the battle, and then he screeched to a halt on his horse and said, "I will travel again and go nowhere," and turned back and fought to the death. So that's the reference there, the most famous of the Iceland sagas. This is from an Iceland pasture range. One by a fjord. One whistle on the wind. Less than a second. Gone. 2 dead sheep. The sheep is dead in the middle of the pasture range, rock and green mottle. The manly boy kicks his head, crunches a horn down with an iron prod carefully, says, "Wake up. The flock left here quite a while ago," and laughs heartily. Instantly, silence, and the silence absorbs his laugh. Philadelphia Airport. Rather tired at the Philadelphia Airport, and the plane to board an hour and 3 coffees away. What irony that at last, at 5:30 a.m., I am at last moved by emotion. It has been a long time. When the unavoidable, continual soft music loudspeaker romps a certain German polka. And I remember another airport, other years, and I, who have never wanted to go back before, wish to go back. But one never can in time. And does space matter much? Want some irony? In Germany it was, you weren't there, and I loved you. Christ, with that passion of emotion, intensity, jealous of whomever you were with the dawn pink and blue and gray and the trees mushrooming, clumping, like wanting broiled to red in-country rompers, or maybe someone good at satyrs. And I remember that other airport. I remember a polka, and that I loved you. Now each in maze muddled and adjusting, and no longer in love. Why kid? And I am not even jealous in wild emotion, imaginings. A few people, a few more people. Now we move, you move, I move, from progress to progress, unlove to unlove, anticipating only departures. Off St. George's Bay, Bermuda, April. Quiet but for humming of an ocean-going tug somewhere near. A mile of azure motion, calm as lotus. Lovely under a bright, growing excited flowers to St. George's. St. George's is warm too, with white, pink-washed cottages, coral cut, half-mile across the sound. They glitter and flower above where the still a rosa star stays docked. and the water skiers not yet at their play, nor swimmers. It's a little chilly and a little bit too early. This is the selfish, glorious, secret time for the long look to love beauty and love the stillness, to lord it on one's own, knowing the need to believe in some good not quite out of this moment, having it filled. This is called Lidette. Gay and garlanded, down to the dockside, my love came running. Warm that welcoming by azure waters, and both of us laughing. So shall I love her, hearing her laughter at each journey's end, never forgetting my smiling and flowered, my dear love, running. Now I know that there are those who are very irritated by place names, but I think that most people who like poetry agree that if they don't understand the place names are important because we each have our sack full of them that are very important to us and are totally meaningless to other people. Like my hometown of Umapine, spelled with a U. I get more teasing about that, and still I think it's important for all of us. You've got your bag full of Umapines too, I know. Going south. They'd made the start from North Washington, passed through Walla Walla, Milton Freewater, I joining there the busload, and God, but they were without. So little. Blankets and baskets and the Greyhound creaking. Baskets and blankets, glasses and rubber boots, knotted brown hands, and everything and hope on board in short. Up and down hills. Weston, Athena, Pendleton. And I remember somewhere in between he looked at her and murmuring through his 70 wintered and rheumatic head, he said, "Mother, I can feel it already. It's getting warmer." Said, "We're in Oregon now, you know, it's quite a difference." I couldn't wince, nor could I choose to ponder on the heart's brown moment, with 12 above outside, and cold feet too. I knew it really wasn't getting warmer. Mountains ahead and open land with gusts and winds soon up the Columbia River Gorge on the right. The South Mountain Country, ditto. My God, I said inside, how can they keep this poor act up, this poor pretense of hope? But they had to, and they knew, and I knew, and I wanted with them, but knew it wasn't getting any warmer, except perhaps the region of the heart. As you may know, the American poet often called the father of 20th century American poetry, Ezra Pound, spent 13 years in St. Elizabeth's Mental Hospital in Washington, D.C., rather than be tried for treason because of a couple of remarks he made after World War II was declared. And I couldn't help but think of that one summer day when I was walking outside our little country house in Oregon and noticed a broken flower. It's called Parallels, Umapine, or EP. Ding dongs the broken hollyhock. From stem atop, red flowers in early afternoons, warm early hours swing spent. Bloomings continue roundabout, abject defeat and side by luscious decay. And without seeing early August breeze competing with the blizzard, devastation too is relative. Tidal wave, typhoon. I grew up deep in the country, and happily, I was raised by my maternal grandparents. Happily, the maternal grandparents had always read poetry at supper, at the supper table prior to the evening meal. And so that part of the family was infused with poetry, while the other part, equally Scotch-Irish, was not infused with poetry, but rough riding and rolling. This is called Voices for Grandfather's Memory. It has an epigraph, or a quasi-epigraph. Roll your tails and roll 'em high, we'll all be angels by and by. Which he liked to sing to the cows, herding them in some milking times. Father or God, pain or sleep, and a dog with glittering eye uplifted. Never admit when you are bested. That is that requested. Lilt and love the Eden days and yellow pumpkin, tractor and lane and the clean dust. Fly in the water jug. How long ago that August day I dumped it all, and somehow he held that temper in check. Shocked on that day, we suddenly knew our time together was short. Then October, the boy by the bed, in tears, through tears, wanting an answer, turned the crank. So lived, loved, and hurt, moved towards a man, planned by hope, but life by fight. Up by his, and the fence went down. Chased the cows for a last time in. Lose the dare, but goddamn death. Into the dark night, he went by the day, hated and loved and racked with pain, gray of hair and keen of hurt, roomy of eye from recurrent thought, reft of hope but full of will-be. Father and warrior finally said, "This is enough. Hell is now and heaven plenty." I think Pasture greeting heard my heart weep when I buried my face in the brown cow's side and wetted her hair with tears. Father and God, pain and sleep, dog with innocent eye uplifted, never admit when you are bested. That is that requested. Lilt and love the Eden days, the hayrake days, the pumpkin time and frequent pheasant. Tractor and lane and the clean dust. This is enough. Chapter. At evening on your farm, did you ever put eggs in your pockets? I'll start again. At evening on your farm, did you ever put eggs in your pockets? See if you could do what others had screwed up at? You know, they busted them once, some kid, Dad said. One time I got brave enough too, scared at that, because my Aunt Exa was there, and I found this nest by the ditch. And I put 2 in each pocket and ran like hell. They busted. And boy, it was good and it was slick and I felt sick and I knew I'd goofed. But nobody scolded since Exa was there. Who's sorry he tried running? Have you ever seen a real, beautiful, hurt bird that looked calm, possessed, unruffled, so that the wound surprised you when you found it? Though somehow you knew it would stay, but unless it had to, it would end. And feeling it, the wound hurt you, and you wished you could take it somehow, take it from the bird, for which you already felt the feeling, love, and tears at the ready, on the quick assembly line. And you knew that its dying or its getting well would free it. So away it would go flying. That would be the last you'd see of that. But you can't just my mentor was the poet Ralph Humphreys. And this is a line on a theme of his, on a line of his. Variation on a theme by Ralph Humphreys. The misinterpretation is what hurts. The last collapse surprises most, as Humphreys says. Perhaps the reasoning was bad at first. We knew that all communication is impure some way. Perhaps the terms were ill-advised. Perhaps we changed unknowingly the aim, and all interpretation is impure some way. Impure some way. Impure some way. Always we kid ourselves, so cunningly, collapse with shock, especially the last. Poet friend of mine was 8.5 months pregnant, and I was down in Portland, which is 250 miles from my home in Oregon. And she lived in Portland, and I wanted to see her, but I knew that the time was not opportune. If it was just a few weeks earlier or a few weeks after the baby was born, it would have been fine. But I was doing my other business and kind of agonizing mentally, and I was on a very steep hill about like that. Or it seemed about that. And I was thinking about how you feel helpless, and you are helpless in a situation like that. All you can do is wish your best for the friend or loved one. And I thought, well, my shoe is untied. Somehow I drew a parallel between the two. My situation and my situation with the much lesser problem of the untied shoe on a steep hill. And for some reason I thought of Emily Dickinson. Don't ask me why. So I wrote this little poem when I got home called Homage to Emily Dickinson. The gesture is beyond me. Coal oil, the lamp has guttered out. By day I see the chimney scorched. That proves there was heat, sunlight. The gesture never has come off with me. Time past, I mean, they used to gird up loins. I tie my shoe. Child outside my window. The child outside my window howls. Crying is so like laughter. The child outside my window attests this and shifts as quickly to my bachelor ear as geared machinery. At first compassion, then by God I'm irked. This stupid inconsistency. He should be jerked quite harshly upright by his careless mother. Yet I stay. And then one half-formed thought passes by of how fast loves pass by. And then no choice but weep. At least, not much. The noisy, inconsistent child outside my window screeches, shifting so fast his intonations. Four-year-old. Teddy bear and a stick behind clump weed and wild rye. He charges the evils of the world. Did you ever do that? This is another short one for William and Dorothy Stafford. Oh, about it. On the signing of letters, it can be said that where I come from, we all sign our letters love, because failing like who doesn't, we try to nevertheless to. This is a stolen poem. Much better than those created by myself. I should have stayed in that butcher shop forever. I guess. It's just a few lines. It's called But to Tell the Truth. As for flavor, it's hard to best a rib, said my butcher to me, and I thought about Eve. Okay, you didn't get it, you don't know it's understood. You don't know it's understood. Song for Susan. Huddle, protect the dream, though the song is lost. Strangle the swine that killed the downy bird. We'll use his bones and have percussion yet. Probably often I should be upbraided for my poems. Not often am I, but I was very much targeted by a very angry person after a poetry reading once where I read that poem and he said, "That's a brutal poem. You should be ashamed to read it." It never occurred to me. Just a couple more. Lines for the time. I said to my barber, "I am trying to grow bald gracefully." And he said, "There ain't no such thing." And I said, "I know it, but I want to try anyway. And that is what makes democracy great." "Yeah," he said, "so I shall leave it long on top, Mr. Jefferson." Well, you'd never guess it from these. But my favorite poet is T.S. Eliot. And this abusive parody may be forgiven with that confession. I'm not sure. One to get ready and two for tenure. For Ham Horton. In the room, the professor comes and goes, talking high drama, teenage prose. But let us go then, thee and me, when the system cries martini, not hot tea. Let us go through certain sweaty, smelling halls to lands where huge and green the olive falls. Falls a plunking into Seagram's golden gin, and the man who plunks it always wears a grin. And leave forever greatness and the question whether books reviewed by kiddies bear suggestion that could lead unmethodized to pregnancy, or a runaway teenager on a spree, or a fit of uncontrolled masturbation that might sap away the vigor of the nation. In the room, the bursar comes and goes, discussing merit pay and picking nose. And would it have been worth it after all to have told, yes, to have told the bitter truth that it's better when it's dry than with vermouth? would read this book called Palm Sunday, but the weather is so gray, I don't want to make it any grayer. Oh, heck, I'll go ahead if you'll forgive me. Palm Sunday. To Philip Whalen. I sit here listening to the wind, Oregon cold in this 4th month, an hour after watching the street for half an hour. Will that car stop? Will the one I wish to call? When will I die? What love? What love? What love will move? April, we live in the north. A jeep drove the length of these alleys, and I returned to Iceland, always to me the land of longing. Now, on the wind I return. This is undoubtedly spring. I am in Oregon. Here I live. Easter is 6 days off. Whalen is in San Francisco. The train toots the diesel against the wind. I have many books to read. I am sure it is just as lonely in the Dalles. Sun pale on Mount Emily, northeast, and light on Table Mountain, west, jabs at the singleness of rain. The second train is difficult on the wind. Even the bell is failing. The slice of palm is the color of the room. Lights on and shades up. Midday or not midday. This is an undramatic man I see, staring back from me from the mirror. I suppose we both know pretty well why the old man I eavesdropped accidentally last hour limped more coming back from the post office than going out. Well, the poplars are still out of leaf, aren't they? Red brick and marble in front of the Elks Club. Adams Avenue pretty quiet. The brick at the wheel. The assertions of each leaf heap up, perhaps, and failing in color. Wimpy's across the street is closed Sundays. Orpheus was off the shelf today and back again today. This is undoubtedly spring. I live in Oregon. Here I am. Easter remains 6 days off. The news at dinner time. Well, I blew on it to put it out, said the little boy who's playing with matches caught that big red roar. I blew on it to put it out, but it didn't do any good. Thank you.